For me, going from stage 2 to stage 4 was honestly something that really didn't surprise me a great deal. Um, in 2012, when I was first diagnosed, and I was diagnosed as stage 2, in the process of preparing for the mastectomy, they determined that I needed to have open heart surgery. So, in a matter of 3 months, not only did I have a mastectomy, but I also had open heart surgery. And it was not without its own complications, which were a result of the mastectomy. I had extensive additional bleeding that they weren't anticipating at the site. And uh, for me to prepare, have the odds and cholesterol levels and everything be at an operable level. And unfortunately, I had been placed on tamoxifen, and I was on it for about 6 weeks when I was admitted to have the open heart surgery. Triglycerides were elevated to what was called an industrial strength, never before recorded, 8,115. Again, 8,115 for my triglycerides. High triglycerides are 300, 400. Occasionally, you've got super high triglycerides at 700 or 800. But for someone to have triglycerides in the thousands, 2,200, 2,300 are heard of, but nothing had ever been heard of at 8,115. So it got a lot of people's attention all over the country, and not for a good reason. But so for me, I had to, and they kept me in the hospital, and I had to prepare to try to get my levels lowered. And that was done simply by taking me off the tamoxifen and trying to get that out of my system as much as they could, as quickly as they could. Because basically the tamoxifen was having an adverse effect, and it was going to kill me, or it surely would have with my triglyceride levels that high. And I would not have sustained the open heart procedure, because simply at those levels, the artery replacements would not have held. So that was that aspect of what I was faced with. And then became the recuperation process. And I told my wife on several occasions that I knew that it only takes one cell to get into my system. And although my surgeon had assured me that they'd gotten everything, and they had gotten the sentinel lymph node and a couple of others past that, I was under the opinion that it would reappear. And I was not disappointed, unfortunately, in March of 2015, or 2016 rather, 4 years later, when it did reappeared, and it had metastasized into my lungs and into my bones in my spine. Now, I like to tell people that if you can envision the shape of a tree, and the leaves on the tree, or the shape of the tree makes the leaves are the shape of your lungs. And if you look at my scans of my lungs, the leaves represented each cancer nodule. And that's how many I had. They were not countable. They glowed more like a Christmas tree in Chicago than a Christmas tree in the woods with a few twinkling stars in the sky. And it was pretty grim prognosis early on. The healthcare provider that I had grown to have a relationship with as a friend, actually looked at my scans prior to the oncologist looking at them, or prior to me sitting down with the oncologist because she was out of the office that day. And a doctor friend of mine, he was able to pull them up because it was in the VA system. And he looked at him, and I saw a tear trickle down his cheek. And my wife, unfortunately, she saw that same tear. And, we both knew that it wasn't good news. And she said, she said, what do I do? What do we do now? And he said, just go home and get comfortable and enjoy whatever time you have left. So getting my oncologist on board, and I told her that I wanted to be as aggressive with this as possible, that I don't know that you can beat this, but I want to do everything I can. So for me, it wasn't a surprise for it to reoccur, but like I said, an unfortunate expectation. And it's a reality of it. It's serious. It's not something that really you can joke around with as far as getting that information delivered to you that says, hey, you have stage 4 breast cancer, especially as a male. But it is what it is.